Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How is everybody doing? Thank you for being here. As always, you did not have to press play, but you did. Greatly appreciate you for doing that. As always, with me is my trusty partner, David. Hello, David. How are you, buddy?
I'm okay. I'm all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just getting ready, having fun to do this show. I actually forgot that we were recording tonight, Dave. Not gonna lie.
Yes, you did tell me that earlier.
I completely forgot. I was, putting my daughters to bed, which I always do beforehand. And my wife goes, "Oh, you're doing the show with David tonight?" And I'm like, yeah, actually I am. I completely forgot. And the sad part is I was prepping for the show earlier today. So my memory is absolutely shot. So here we are. Thanks to my wife, we're doing the show. Otherwise, David would have been sitting there ready going, "What the fuck? Where is he? Why is he not texting me?" And then I would have sent him a meme or like a tweet and he would have been like, "Where are you?" That's exactly what would have happened. So
I would have probably just ended up playing NCAA on my computer anyway. So,
I mean, I can't blame you. It's probably a better use of your time than this anyway. But so again, appreciate everyone that has continued to listen. You have made it to, I believe it's episode number 7 now, which is pretty bizarre. And this is the most consistent David and I have been on a show in probably well over a year. So it's been fun so far. And we're going to continue to do what we're doing, trying to bring you some unique topics and kind of our perspective, a little no holds barred, not as, I guess, FCC approved. If you want to find us on the socials, again, I'm not giving it to you. Just go search the Alex Cuesta Show, last name Cuesta. You can find it. I don't think I'm blocked anywhere yet, so that's a good thing. And half the time I don't tag David in anything, so nobody knows he's there until they listen to the show, and then they're disappointed. So one thing that we need to touch on before we get to the main topic is the Ghislaine Maxwell trial is still going on. They seem to be trying to fly through it. I think Jack Prosobic wrote that there's only going to be 2 weeks of arguments presented, and then they're going to go into deliberation, which is the absolute biggest sham I've ever heard on arguably the biggest trial of our generation. One person that we recommended, I think last week and maybe even the following week to follow in order to get information about this, because it's not widely distributed. And I know when you say that on Twitter, you have all these little bots coming in and saying, "What do you mean?" And they send you a specifically searched thing on like CNN or New York Times where the articles pop up. Like, it's not front page news. It's not leading every single cable news hour like it should be. But we recommended Trial Tracker, and it had over 524,000 followers, and Twitter just shut it down, which I think everybody expected, but it goes to show you the length and the power of the people that potentially could be exposed in this, that Twitter is also trying to cover it up. This is an absolute cover up going on. And if you talk to anybody, anyone at all about this, it doesn't matter whether they're right or left, unless they're elite and unless they're pedophiles, then most people want this out there and exposed as much as possible. I recommend to move on to these two Twitter feeds if you want to follow this. At Maxwell Trial, it's Ghislaine's last name. They're covering this very well. And also at Inner City Press, they're also covering it kind of word by word, which Rakita Law did, Law Self-Defense did, and still do on a lot of trials. So those are two that I recommend. Now, I think we're getting into the nitty gritty on this trial, Dave, and that's why they're really trying to block it out. There's been a ton of witnesses that have talked about, former rape victims, that Maxwell was grooming them, putting a dress on the bed when they brought them over on the plane and saying, "Here, put this on. This is what, Jeff would like." And then bringing them down there and Jeffrey Epstein engaging in sexual acts with 14-year-olds and even Maxwell participating. And there's lots of pictures between those two. And Dave, it's been absolutely disgusting. The things that have come out, and it's fairly graphic in nature, what a lot of the people are saying. Now, on day 4 of the trial, Dave, the little black book was revealed, heavily redacted, which again, right now pisses me off that so much stuff is redacted. But there were names in the book. Bill Clinton's name was in there. Prince Andrew's name was in there. Alec Baldwin's name was in there. Donald Trump's name was in there. A bunch of major executives' names were in there. So, again, I'm kind of going to withhold judgment. I'm not going to withhold judgment on Bill Clinton. He took the Lolita Express 26 times. He's a pedophile. He's a terrible human. Alec Baldwin just sucks. We know that. He killed somebody. And he shouldn't be let off. He's definitely should have manslaughter, Alec Baldwin, at the minimum, seeing what they can prove. Donald Trump, from all the other witness testimony so far, no one has actually accused Donald Trump of ever taking a flight, ever going to the island, outside of just knowing Jeffrey Epstein and potentially being friendly with him. There's been nothing exposed that Donald Trump has actually engaged in any actions there. He has been accused in the past of certain things. None of them have been founded, but this is coming from somebody who voted for Trump twice. If Donald Trump is found to have any sort of connection here, fuck Donald Trump. If that's the case. If not, then say la vie. He does what he does. But if he's connected at all to any of this, he can go to hell. Dave, before I go a little bit further into this, anything that you have to say about any of the stuff that's been going on so far in the Maxwell trial, how closely are you trying to follow this?
So another person to follow that's actually making videos and putting it on YouTube. He's actually in the courtroom. Good Logic, LAWGIC. I think his real name is like Joe Neerman or something. And that's not me doxing him. That's literally on Twitter. But Good Logic, he's been making videos of every day in the trial, like little recaps. I haven't watched all of them yet, but he does very good work as well. And he's someone you can follow.
Cool. And I do have to say also Maxwell trial, they claim to be in there as well. And they claim to actually be a journalist and they'll expose who they are once the trial's done. I guess they're trying to save themselves, but Inner City Press is out there. They're an actual news network and they are out there. They're in the courtroom and they're giving recaps. So they are actually putting themselves out there. And I respect all three of those for doing what they're doing.
Yes. And I forgot to mention that the trial tracker that was suspended off Twitter, their page is still up there. Their profile is still up there. They have a Substack in there, which you can follow, and that gives updates. So you do not need to follow them on Twitter. You could follow out the Substack. You don't have to give money or anything. You can just get updates on what they're saying.
And you can also go on Getter. It is an alternative to Twitter, GETTR. For a little while, it wasn't on the Play Store or on the iTunes store, but it is there now. I downloaded it on the Play Store. So Getter's an alternative. If you are on the left, I'm not going to lie, it is 95% people on the right, but it is meant to be a free speech alternative. So even if you are a far leftist, you can get into arguments. You might get dogpiled on, but you will not get suspended. I think outside of actually targeting violence, outside of actually threatening or trying to rally for violence, Getter's pretty open about whatever the hell you say. So Getter, I recommend going on there because Trial Tracker is on Getter and they're still doing their thing there. So that's a place where you can go find them. So last thing I want to say about this is the pilot was put on the stand for the Lolita Express, one of the pilots. He mentioned flying a lot of these big time names that we mentioned already. And one of the people he said that he never flew was Donald Trump. He said he didn't know of him because Epstein did hang around with them at times and he's been around him. But apparently Trump has never flown on the Lolita Express. He says he clearly remembers Bill Clinton constantly being on there. So another big thing about him, though, is besides what he said, they were supposed to release the flight records. Dave, the flight records were basically all redacted, which is a hot mess of bullshit. And that actually pisses me off that the prosecution was not able to get these flight records to be more open. Because like I said, this is the biggest trial of our generation, possibly, I want to say, in the history of this country, because it involves so many of the rich and powerful, and it involves pedophilia. And the fact that we are allowing pedophiles to be protected is a whole lot of shit to me, and I can't stand it at all, Dave.
And, you know, if you want QAnon, this is how you get QAnon, by releasing these files and redacting everything. Like, that's from what I know of Q. One of their big hardcore components is there's like a satanic pedophile ring of elites. Well, if you're not going to fully name the people who were going to pedophile island with Epstein, more people are going to believe that this is that almost every elite's in on it. Yep. And they're going to believe QAnon. So like, you need some transparency here in order for people not to believe in conspiracy theories, because that's the number one reason people believe in conspiracy theories, and when there's no transparency.
Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, where you at? Before they finally get you and put you away, Assange, this would be the biggest thing that you will ever do. Please get a source in there. Please figure out a way to get a fully unredacted little black book out there to the world and a fully unredacted flight log. If you want protection, if you want people to be on your side, Edward Snowden had a lot of people turned onto his side after we found out the full story. Julian, if ever you want people to be on your side, whether it's right, left, whether it's people that have been pissed at you for releasing certain files from national security, I feel like you will get so much support if you will just figure out a way to get on the inside and release these. Even James O'Keefe, Project Veritas. God knows that the other news sources are not wanting to do this. Your Washington Post, your New York Times, your CNN, your any of these bullshit places that are supposed to be heavy on investigative journalism, none of them are going after this. And if they are, their editors are telling them to chill the fuck back. You're not doing this. So we can't rely on them. You guys need to be the ones to do it. So please, somebody get out there, get an unredacted version, and you might be targeted for death afterwards. You'll probably be placed in prison. It's worth it. If I had the power, I would do it. I don't have that reach, but it's worth it because it might give some peace of mind to any of these survivors that these people that brutally raped them and used them as sex slaves would go to jail. You cannot be a person who's holier than thou talking about Sharia and talking about how the Muslims use these sex rings and all that, or use their child brides, and then sit there and turn the blind eye to what's going on here and this cover up. So overall, we're going to continue to talk about it. Probably next week, we'll bring it up again. Maybe by next week, the verdict will be coming by, because I believe deliberations are probably supposed to start next week, which is absolutely batshit that a trial of this magnitude is only going to have 2 weeks. But so that's that. Again, follow Maxwell Trial, follow Inner City Press. And what was the other one, Dave, that was supposed to follow?
Good Logic, LAWGIC. Good Logic.
Good Logic. So between those three, you should probably get what you need to get, unless all three of them get shut down, which is very likely that all three of them will get shut down. So we are going to move on to the main topic of the show, which is fuck the 2022 Olympics that are supposed to be going on in China. Boycott them. Not just the United States. Every single nation needs to boycott these events that are going on there. One reason, if you want to be a little bit snarky here, if you're on the right, we shouldn't have sports in general, because sports are sexist, aren't they? Dave, aren't sports sexist? Shouldn't we have all competing at the same time? Because we're now telling women that they're less. They're not allowed to compete with the men, Dave. Shouldn't we be boycotting all sports? That's what I think. We have the trans swimmer currently, I think, in UPenn that is smashing all of the women's records because he's an absolute dude. And if you look at him, he's a unit that is swimming in there. And we're supposed to believe that this guy isn't just throwing on a wig because he was not good enough to be on a real men's team. Come on now. Come on. I don't care if I'm insensitive for that. That is the biggest waste of time. At least he's not doing MMA like that one psycho and just punching people and beating the shit out of women. At least it's a sport where he's on his own. But still, this dude needs to get out of women's sports, because these women who work their asses off for scholarships in swimming that are potential Olympians, potential champions, are now getting fucked over because this douchebag decided, I'm not good enough to swim with guys, so let me throw a friggin' wig on, say I'm a chick, and go win. What a friggin' loser, Dave. Dave, if you didn't notice, that makes me angry. Makes me angry.
I can see that.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Maybe I don't like it because I probably wasn't good enough to even like switch genders when I was in college and beat the women. Maybe it just makes me angry that like I couldn't have done it when I ran track at Marist. Like I would have switched and still taken like fourth or fifth each race. So I wouldn't even made it to nationals. Like it would have been embarrassing. It would have been the biggest like waste of time. And you know what makes this all the worst part? All this stuff with the athletes. They still made a movie with Rodney Dangerfield called Ladybugs, where he has to recruit a boy to compete on a women's soccer team who absolutely dominated every single game. We saw this coming. Rodney Dangerfield still gets no fucking respect for making a movie that predicted this bullshit. I digress. Back to the real story at hand. China fucking sucks, and they have no business hosting a 2022 Olympic Games. First off, it's not a secret. They're committing genocide out in the open. And it's not even a right or left thing. Nancy Pelosi flat out said, yeah, we know about the Uyghur genocide, but climate change is more important. So fuck those people. Let them die now. We have to save the planet with these evil bastards. But they're committing genocide for the Uyghurs over there. That's probably the biggest one for me, Dave. We do not need to go to a country that is committing genocide, actively committing genocide. Another thing they did, Hong Kong was looking for freedom. Hong Kong is not doing that anymore because they were taken over. China brought their tanks in, brought their military in and said, you're China now. And they're actively practicing and threatening Taiwan militarily with all their flyovers and much more activity. And they're going to take over Taiwan. I wouldn't be surprised if Taiwan is absorbed by the time these games go on. I'd imagine that's something that Xi wants to do so that he can kind of tout the one China plan working. That is, to me, it's just, number one, mind-boggling that the IOC even gave it to China again after the debacle in Beijing, where nobody could breathe. Like that's first. No one could breathe the last time they went in China. We were all worried about time suffering because of smog. And what do? Reward them with another games like 8 years later. You were nodding your head, Dave. What do you have to say? You're not surprised that the IOC just awards a bunch of dictators?
Not one bit. And it's not about a bunch of dictators. It's about China. We know that China is involved in everything. They shell out the money to everything. They have people in everything. So of course they're going to. Why do you think almost no one in any power says anything about Taiwan being its own sovereign state? They don't. They're all afraid to, because they're all either being paid by them or wanting to be paid. But it's embarrassing. It's otherworld embarrassment that we're witnessing.
So someone that doesn't give a shit, that has a little bit of a platform of power, is Enes Kanter Freedom. And quick aside, I'm not going to lie, it is ridiculous that Enes Kanter officially made his last name Freedom. Like, it's based and at the same time ridiculous that, listen, Enes, what you say, the way that you speak as openly as you do, your actions, the shoes you wear, the way that you don't back down, we know what you're about. We realize you became an American citizen because you love freedom. You love the way of life here, and that, the oppression going on in Turkey, you're trying to intimidate your family and you just telling Turkey to fuck off. Like, all of that was something that everyone sees. You didn't have to make your last name Freedom, but it is pretty badass. But Enes Kanter is someone that does not care. It started off with his, like I said, his feud in Turkey. I believe, what is it? Erdogan is the leader of Turkey.
Yes.
Essentially calling out Turkey, saying America should not be friendly with them. They are an absolute dictatorship. Erdogan's a dictator. He's a bad person. He tortures his own people. And that drew the ire of Turkey. And they basically said, if you come back, we're killing you. In so many words. And they were like, hey, come back. We just, your dad wants you to come back. He is with us and he wants you to come back. And Enes is like, yeah, sorry, Dad, never coming back. Fuck Turkey. And so God knows what's going on there. If there's an update with Enes Kanter's family, if he was able to get them out, somebody please update us. But he has been someone that since then, it didn't just stop with Turkey. He's been going at China 100% hard. He has quite literally called out Xi Jinping and said, "You are a tyrannical, brutal dictator. You kill your own people." And he talked about the Uyghurs specifically. He talked about Tibet specifically. And he's someone that I have huge respect for. He's called out LeBron James. He's called out the NBA. And I see criticisms of him on Twitter where it's like, oh, well, he's using the place that he calls out that takes so much money from China, but he's still profiting from it. And these are the same people that were like, go Kaepernick, go use your platform. And it's like, no, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You know, for me, I don't care that Kaepernick used the platform of the NFL to do his little peaceful whatever. I care that Kaepernick did it after he got benched. That's what pisses me off. The dude did it after he got benched. We can have a whole other podcast on Kaepernick and why he's just a piece of shit and doesn't deserve any of the accolades that he gets. He's not a civil rights activist. He's an absolute moron. But Enes Kanter is doing his thing. He doesn't seem like he's going to stop. I think he has a lot of different things that he wants to go on outside of just China. So more power to you, Enes Kanter. Keep doing your thing, or Enes Freedom, I should say. But like you said, Dave, people are scared of them. And it includes the United States. It includes Joe Biden. It includes a lot of the people, even on the right, that are scared of them. Just for the fact that it's been a known fact that specifically since Bill Clinton was president, China has been stealing our intellectual property. They have been actively sending spies that we have caught into universities, doing the highest level research that we have paid to fund, and then giving all this information back to China. I believe it was Harvard that they were doing some like high level research. And it was a Chinese exchange, I believe, student or something like that, or someone, a fellow was there. And I don't even know what it was, but they were actively giving all the information to China.
It doesn't even have to be spies. It's just professors in universities that get contacted by China, and they say, and they give up the research. They give up the resources because they're getting paid handsomely. They're getting a lot of things from China in order to give them that information. And if they can't find someone that'll just give them the information, China just outright steals information. We know this. We've known this, but no one likes to call it out that much because it's supposed to be like this open secret, I guess.
And, and it's like, I listen, and I will say this, the Biden, I'm calling them regime now. I'm not going to call them the administration. The Biden regime, until they stop doing mandates, they're a regime. The Biden regime did come out and say, we are not sending any ambassadors. We're not having any officials from our government go to China for these games, which is commonplace. You usually have a horde of officials that represent the government to go with the team. And they said, no, we're having none of that. So kudos to them for taking that step, because that is, diplomatic. As much as people are like, oh, it's only diplomatic. Diplomatic does matter in the geopolitical world, but they are scared to take it the next step. They won't take it the next step. They won't tell the athletes, you're not going this year. And like David said, they're stealing all of our stuff. That should be enough for us to never do anything in China again, extracurricular. The fact that we know that they openly steal and they don't give a shit. It's not even like they apologize. It's not even like they give anything back or they pay us. They're just like, you caught us. What are you going to do? You ain't going to go to war with us. You're a bunch of bitches. We just take Hong Kong. We just took Hong Kong. Now what? Like, they don't care. China doesn't care. But one thing we need to do is we need to not give them their economy a major boost by letting them host an Olympics. We need to let them build all these stadiums and then not go and say, fuck them, because it's ridiculous. So what else do we want here? I talked about Xi wanting his one China policy. Now, one of the things that I thought, and being a person who studied Nazism, who really studied World War II and just the effects of it, the one China policy is eerily similar, Dave, to Hitler's initial askings of, wanting the Sudetenland, wanting the Rhine back, because they were initially German and they deserve to be ours. And what did all the countries do around them? All the European powers who just didn't want to go to war. Yeah, you're kind of right. The Sudetenland, that was German for the longest time. You guys can have that. No military involved. Oh, the Rhine. Yeah, take the Rhine. It's fine. And so it's like history is repeating itself here, Dave, because China took Hong Kong and the world did nothing. And now China's looking to take Taiwan. You would think we would learn from our mistakes. It's like eerily similar to what's going on here. We competed in a games in Nazi Germany. Granted, the Second World War didn't start, but we knew that, Hitler wasn't a good guy at that point. We didn't think he was a genocidal psycho, but we knew he wasn't a good guy. We knew he was super anti-Semitic at that point. He was blaming Jews left and right already. We knew that the night of the long knives that occurred, it was like an open secret that he killed everyone to keep himself consolidating power. So it's interesting that we're sitting there and history is definitely repeating itself here. It's like, we know these people are brutal. We know he's a dictator. We know the CCP kills anybody that talks out against them. We know all these things, yet here we are appeasing them. We're going to give them an Olympic Games. Let's boost their economy some more. Oh, we're going to let them take Hong Kong. They've been threatening Taiwan. And we're just like, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. It's like, next, Dave, is the next game's going to be in Moscow right after they take Ukraine? And it's like, you know what? Ukraine, sorry, but you were Soviet territory. So, it's only right. And you know what? Let's boost your economy, Russia. Give it in Moscow. Let's just do it, man. Like, what is going on here? Why are we honoring a brutal dictator? Like, and he is like, we had not too long ago, Mao Zedong killed over 1 million of his own people, had, revolutions. And then it was Deng. What the hell's Deng's last name? He's the one that kind of brought in the pseudo-capitalistic. God, I should be prepared. David, do some Google search. What was Deng's last name? He kind of brought in like the pseudo-capitalist side with the free market opening with CCP control, but creating kind of a middle class. And then Xi comes in and everyone's like, oh, he might be similar to Deng. And he ended up going like, one China policy. We're going to keep the kind of free market-ish stuff, but we're going to get more brutal. And now we're rewarding this guy.
I believe it was Deng Xiaoping.
Deng Xiaoping. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
I was going to say.
Xi Jinping, Deng Xiaoping. It's like they're similar. But yeah, it was Deng Xiaoping who brought that on. He was the president, prime minister, whatever the hell they want to call themselves. They're dictators, all of them, before Xi. But it's like, it's just mind-boggling that we are actively sitting there and it just seems like history's repeating itself. And kind of the last thing I want to say about this, Dave, and I'll let you kind of rant if you want to a little bit about what's going on. Didn't COVID start in China? Like, it's not like, I know China at one point was like, the CIA did it. And like, no, fuck you. Did it start in China? Like, am I missing something? That COVID-19, his epicenter is in Wuhan, China. And now, not 3 years later, we're still technically in the pandemic. Omicron, so bad, you sneeze, and then no. Now we're sitting there. Technically, it's not gone. Lord Fauci has not deemed it done yet. He still needs more money from vaccine companies that he fucking invested in. So it's still going on. That's the epicenter. So what are we going to do? Let's just send a few thousand people there to sweat, be active, get exhausted, get exposed. Granted, they're in the best shape ever. No athlete should ever need to take a booster or vaccine if they don't want to, because this does not kill healthy people unless you have an underlying condition or you're old. So, you know what? Keep the coaches home, I guess. But why the fuck are we sending anybody to China outside of international bombs being sent at friggin' Xi Jinping's palace, or just people to go and inspect everything about that country? Like, it makes no damn sense that everyone's so worried about COVID still. COVID, Omicron, COVID. We skipped over Xi because it looks too much like Xi and we don't want to offend Xi, but COVID this, COVID that. But we're going to go have a World Games in 2022. Watch, Dave. Miraculously, numbers are going to be super low, safe. We're going to be good to go by the Olympics. Olympic Games are going to end in a month. It's going to be like outbreak. Like, I guarantee that's what's going to happen. But overall, It's not only a stupid idea because of COVID, it's a terrible idea because we are once again just appeasing a brutal, genocidal dictator who has the means, has the people, has the military to start a world war. And unless they decide to fuck with Russia, could possibly win. Because I will tell you this, Xi, anyone in China that takes over, if you want to win a world war, the key is to never invade Russia. They are the reason why 2 world wars were lost. And Napoleon didn't get to succeed because they all invaded Russia. Do not invade Russia. Be friendly with Russia and then choke Russia out economically. I'm telling you right now, China, if they decide to start a world war right now, United States would be so worried about whether or not we're going to put trans women or dudes on the front line that we would die. They would kill us because our military sucks and they're woke. Wokeness is going to murder us. And then they just have to worry about choking out Russia economically. And they're in good shape. China will take over the world. Dave, this topic pissed me off more than I thought because it's so fucking stupid. It is so stupid. What do you got, Dave?
You got very angry at the end there.
It's annoying. It's just annoying to think about.
But basically what's happening is they're kind of playing into whatever pseudo reality China wants to play with before going there, honestly. In some ways, in other ways, obviously, like you said, they did at least acknowledge the fact that a genocide of sorts is happening there. Not the first one that's happened under Xi, by the way, if I remember correctly. But yeah, no, we're just playing along. But the problem is that I don't entirely disagree saying, oh, you could have it. Like the point of the Olympic Games is to say, like, even with all the strife happening, let's do this. Let's have like peace at one time. But when you don't have any strong stance against what's going on in the first place, that's what makes it even worse about going there. Like if we're just allowing them to take whatever info they want from America, we're allowing them to put in any disinfo they want into America as well. We have no real strong stance against China. We're not heavily protecting Taiwan right now. I don't even think they trust us to protect them. So going over there and having the Olympic Games, like almost nothing's wrong, is why it's weak at this point. If we had a strong stance and then we went over there, that's us saying that we still don't like you, but we're respecting what the Olympic Games means. But since we're having a weak stance and we're going over there, it's just, it almost seems like us kowtowing in a way to the reality that they want.
So what are the chances that Enes Kanter bullies his way onto the USA men's team with bitches coaching like Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich, who are super woke and losers? Not losers in basketball sense, but God, their politics suck. What are the chances of Kanter bullying his way onto that team?
I don't think he will. I don't think they'll want him on there. He's not, from what I've seen lately, I think, is that he's not as good as he used to be, which, I mean, is going to happen when you played for years. But yeah, so I don't think he'll be able to even get on a team. Though I still respect him for, I mean, saying what he wants to say, especially with the way NBA's reacted to people in their organization saying anything about China.
Yeah. Well, it stems down from also when Daryl Morey talked about Hong Kong and its sovereignty and was forced to kind of back down. And I can't imagine Kanter staying with the Boston Celtics past this season. I'm surprised he hasn't been cut already because they cost him all of the televised games in China. So Celtics have no televised games, and Celtics are one of the most recognizable teams in the world. So that definitely hurts the bottom line. I don't know. I think Enes Kanter may be out of basketball by this year. I think he might just be blackballed. But he's using his platform the way he is. And I just think, Popovich and Kerr, great coaches, shitty in every other way, basically. So I don't see them allowing him on the team. Basically, they won't pick him. They'd rather keep people like LeBron, who would go and have tea with Jing and watch the beheadings of the Uyghurs and smile and laugh as long as he gets his money. But I don't know. In the end, overall, this is an awful idea. China is a modern day German similar fascist state, public-private partnerships, a basis of fascism. And they're doing it. That's the basis of their free market. Every single private company there is CCP basically either owned or controlled via the party. So if you're looking for a modern day fascist state, they're right there. They have communist underpinnings with fascist, basically control. So right there, a lot of similarities to Germany and a lot of things going on. So Dave, hopefully the worst doesn't happen. We won't see war with China under Biden because Biden's extremely weak. And obviously with all things that came out with Hunter Biden, he's extremely friendly to China. He doesn't mind them. He's talked about, can we compete with China? And, does our structure and our way of government need to change in speed? So obviously he kind of favors more of the socialist dictatorship side, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to be done. Ultimately we're going to go compete in those games. It's going to happen. It's unfortunate. Our athletes are going to go down there. They're going to kick everybody's ass. China's medal count's going to be closer. They're going to say they have more than us somehow because China's stupid and they love to do that. But yeah, that's generally what's going to occur, and it's going to piss me off, but I'm going to watch the games because I love the Olympics and I'm hypocritical. So there is that. That's really all I have to say about this, Dave. Do you have anything to add before we kind of give a closeout of my anger that boiled up throughout this rant?
I think you summarized it pretty well.
Yeah, it's what pissed me off more than I thought it would. The more I got to thinking about it, and the more like the geopolitical part of this and history repeating itself, and weak leaders like Boris Johnson's bitch ass, and in the UK, and Macron, who I'm hoping loses to that Eric guy. I don't know his name, but his opening video was fantastic.
Eric Zemmour
and Le Pen. I swear to God, Le Pen, you better drop out, you piece of garbage. But, just weak leadership leading to dictators like Putin, dictators like Xi, and all the rest to just feel very powerful. No doubt in my mind, Putin's going to go and invade Ukraine, and America is going to send resources. 100% think it's going to be resources. Biden's not even going to send 1,000 drones to just go bomb the shit out of them like Obama would have. It's just going to be, we'll send you some guns and some like rations. Good luck. Like that's all that's going to happen. So ultimately, this pisses me off. We should not be going to China. We should be boycotting the 2022 Olympics. The whole Western world should boycott the 2022 Olympics. But when you have Australia and New Zealand basically looking like China at this point, and even Canada a little bit, God knows they're just all going to go and say, yeah, China was awesome. So I can continue going angrily, but I'm not going to. I'm going to close out this episode, everybody. Thank you for listening. I hope we can start a hashtag fuck China or boycott China or something like that. The Chinese games. We got to start something to say no one should go there. If you want, I'm going to try and start a hashtag, but it's not going to work. Follow us on social media. Search the Alex Cuesta Show. I'm not going to give you the tags again. Too damn lazy. You're not getting them. As always, David's with me. He's always with me. He's forced to be with me. Even when he doesn't want to be here, I make him join me. So he doesn't have a choice. I'm Alex Cuesta. The show is mine. And I appreciate everyone for listening. As always, if you have any comments, please leave them. And let us know if we're doing good, we're doing bad, if we suck, if we're great. If we suck, don't tell anybody. Shut up. If we're great, tell the world. Thanks. I appreciate everyone for listening. Have a good one all.